We're back with the first episode of the Talkin Footy podcast. We wanted to do this podcast for a really long time. Finally found the opportunity to do it. And I was actually meant to have a co-host on this podcast, but for the first episode, just think of it almost like opening round. So it's the official start of the podcast, but we probably won't be fully rolling into different segments that we want to add to the podcast and stuff like that. It's almost going to be like a review show, and then we're going to do my tips at the end. So we're going to go all things round 6 and then predicting round 7. So without further ado, let's get into it. So round 6, we're kicking off Blues versus Pies. Now the main taking away point of this game was obviously the Elijah Hollands situation, and really who's to blame out the Elijah Hollands situation. And as we speak, I'm currently recording this on a Monday, and we still have no idea what actually happened here. And all prayers go out to Elijah Hollands, obviously, mental health, how he's feeling. I was watching this game live with a mate, and the first thing I said to him was, someone needs to either be staying with Elijah Hollands tonight, someone needs to be close by him, because it was just not a great look. And that's when we had no details at all. There's been sprinklings of details during the weekend, and I think they want to try to get something out. I think they said their deadline was Wednesday, the AFL, because the AFL are really questioning Carlton on this one. What went wrong? How did they actually allow him to be on the field? And I still have no idea how they've let him on the field. That's a question I guess we'll never know the answer for, or hopefully we do find out what went behind it. Hopefully everyone's honest. The rumours about alcohol or drugs, and I just hope that if any of that did happen, Elijah Hollands be honest about it, because him trying to hide it. So say if he did or didn't, or all the speculation, if he did take something before the game, if he's honest about it, it just helps everything out. So then, they can actually try to help him in the future and stuff like that. But for now, check on your mates. Get the help you need, talk to someone, because you never know how much, putting yourself out there could help. And now we'll move on to the actual football. So the way that they're using Will Hayward is really I don't understand it. If you ever watch Will Hayward at Carlton, you know how good he was at being able to, he was almost like a mini full forward, kind of like Bailey Fritsch in that, that really good Melbourne year. Being able to play is almost like, I reckon they should. If I was picking the Tools lineup, I know Mitch McGovern's been really good for the Blues, but I would almost go, Brody Kemp, he's been decent. Harry Mackay hasn't really found his feet, but we know what Harry Mackay is. We know he's a Coleman medalist, so he needs to stay there. And then use Will Hayward as a deep forward. They need to do that. That's where he was at his best. That's where he actually looked like a really good footballer at Sydney. And instead, they've using him as this high half forward. It's almost like they thought, because how they're using Ben Ainsworth is good. I like how they're using Ben Ainsworth, but I just don't understand why you're trying to use Ben Ainsworth and Will Hayward the same. They're not. I would rather, put Frankie Evans up the ground and then just clear out the forward line for Will Hayward to play as a deep. And yeah, I feel like that's where we're going to see the benefit, because he played deep at early in the first quarter, and then he got a shot on goal, and I was like, why would you ever move him from this role? Just let him play deep. Now we've talked about Jagger Smith. Why are they playing Jagger Smith as half forward? We saw his first 2 or 3 games. He looked fantastic in the middle of the ground. I understand he's probably struggling with the fitness of AFL, but still, Jagger just needs to get him back in the guts. He's something different. And then when they moved George Hewitt out of there, I thought, finally they're going to chuck him back in the guts. And then he's still only getting maybe 7-8 centimetre ounces, which he needs to be the 4th highest. He needs to be obviously. I respect Chera. Chera can be up there. Cripps can be up there. Walsh can be up there as the first uses. But the next one down has to be Jagger, in my opinion. And then I wrote here, this was just my notes from the game. I said Ben Ainsworth, the most average player in AFL history. And I can't really argue with that. They'll have Lockie Cowan and Matt Carroll Matt Carroll, I almost said Matt Cottrell, shining lights. Matt Carroll on the wing's been fantastic. I love how he's, he can help out, intercept mark, put a spoiler in defence, and then he's actually been pushing forward, which I didn't know he could do, because obviously we knew that he used to play half back. And then Lockie Cowan, he was like the only guy in that back 6 that or one of the young guys, Nick Newman was really good too. Lockie Cowan, like, I don't know if it's a tats or something, but he's been looking dangerous back there, taking some great intercept marks, being accountable, taking the game on. There was a few where he literally, instead, you thought that he just got a handball over the top, instead he tried to tackle on the tackle or break a tackle. Fantastic. And then I write, Harry Mackay's lost, and he does just look so lost. Like, you expect him to be almost like, you know, when Tom Lynch, even though he did kick 1 goal 7, or was it 2 goals 7, I can't remember what he kicked, at least he was getting the shots on goal, and at least he looked dangerous, and you could tell that he was the veteran down there. Harry Mackay looks absolutely lost. McGovern, who they've just swung forward because they need something down there to help score goals. He scored 3 goals in this match, and I think he's injured now. I can't remember really what injury he got, but I know he did. And Oscar Steen, this is what I've been saying, and when I was watching Collingwood last week, this is what I was thinking that they need to do with him. He attended most of the centre bounces, and then once they let the centre bounce, then they let Darcy Cameron ruck. That's what they should do. Darcy Cameron's great at the ball ups around the ground, but he's shocking in the middle of the ground. And they finally, Craig McRae, I knew he could do it. He's a great coach. So he attended 21 of the 28 centre bounces. That's perfect, and they need to keep that up every week. Nick Dacos, that first fourth quarter, I don't really know what you need to say. The best fourth quarter since Naz's one against the D's last year. Fantastic. Can't really say more. Fantastic. Dan Houston is the best worst kick in the AFL. I stand by that. He's actually my Supercoach team. If any of you guys play Supercoach, and I'll tell you what, I don't know what he was doing. I love that he takes the game on, and obviously that's his license to be able to pull off these 45 kicks and, you know, try to bite something off in the middle of the ground. But it seems like he just can't hit anything at the moment. Now we're moving on to Cats versus the Dogs, and Jezza beat the Dogs by himself. That's kind of all we need to really say about that one. It was a really not a great game to watch, and I only literally had 3 notes for this game because it was just Jezza beat the Dogs by himself. And then the injuries of Darcy, Lobb, O'Donnell, and Libba. Really praise out to Libba, because Libba's the real, even though, you know, Darcy's, it's confirmed now ACL, he's out for the year. But this could be Libba done forever, to be fair. He's had some, I think this is like, I think I saw something during the week, 6 or 7, or possibly even 8 concussions he's had, which is like, just for him to be able to just function in life, they might have to pull the pin. I know he's faced I can't remember what they're called. It's off my head, but you know how they face the tribunal or whatever it is to see if you're fit to play. I feel like he may have to do that again, and I don't know if he'll pass it because they're pretty harsh on that. Like they threw McGovern out last year, which was sad to go. And then Lobb and O'Donnell, they've actually been pretty decent key defenders. Apparently Lobb may be fit. It was only a minor hamstring, I think. But Darcy, I just don't think the Dogs have a chance to win the flag if Darcy's out, to be fair. And I think most people think that. And I think, oh, Norton's been, you know, I think he's their number 1 goal kicker this year. But the thing is, Norton just thrives off being taken a number 2 key defender. And now he's going to get the number 1. They're going to be able to double team him forward. I think that when Darcy was out last year, I'm pretty sure I think he kicked something like 10 goals in 8 games, but then he kicked 57 or something in the 11 that Darcy played with him. So this shows how much he loves, you know, well, it makes sense. His benefits of taking a number 2 key defender. Now we move on to Swans versus the Giants. This game went forever. And shout out to Callum Brown, he stayed at the ground from something like 12 o'clock, 12 to 12. He had a 12-hour shift in this because he was a late call-in for Jesse Hogan. But how good are, like, Sydney's offensive mids? If you look about it, you got Warner, Heaney, and then the emergence of McInerney. Who thought that McInerney was going to be a genuine offensive midfielder like this? And I'm surprised he's actually getting the opportunity because Warner's played so much forward this year. I think he's attending like he's attending like the 4th most centre bounces for Sydney, when you probably think he's probably their 2nd best player. But yeah, McInerney going to a different level was not something I had on my bingo card. You know him as like a hard-running wingman, and you know, I don't know how well his centre bounces were like before this season, but I think he's like the 2nd highest centre bounces for Sydney this year. And then like the Swans' ability to score quickly is easily the best in the comp. Like the fact that how quickly they went. I think I was watching the game, and GWS were like 2 goals down with 10 minutes to go, and you're thinking, if they get one more here, this game's on. And then you blink, and they put on 4 goals in a row, and they're up by nearly 50. And you're thinking, what happened? It was 4 minutes. And then the game was dead and buried. And then, yeah, they need to move Green back to the forward line. I wrote this down here. Toby Green, he had 5 shots on goal in this game, but he was playing like mostly as a midfielder. I think he had the most centre bounces for the Giants in this one. And it's because he was getting hard shots or on the run. He wasn't getting the inside 30 marks that he would usually get and stuff like that. So I think moving back down there, and I think the guy they should get in, because obviously they're down a few men with, well, Clary's been taking the piss. I think he's averaging 32 touches a game in there. But they're missing the big fella Tom Green, and that's a huge hole to fill. But I think they already got the big, bulky mid in Clary. They got the explosive mid in Callaghan. Chuck Lockie Ash down there, and you're thinking, like when they chucked the Naz in the middle, you wouldn't think it would work. You think, oh, he's more of an outside player. But just look how good Naz went when he went to the midfield back after last year, and now he's one of the genuine stars of the competition. And they won't lose anything because they still got Lockie Whitfield. So having the luxury to be having Lockie Whitfield behind the ball, they have got Himmelberg behind the ball is a great kick. They're not going to be losing too much putting Lockie Ash in there. And then Lockie Ash could be a genuine star. He already is a star at halfback. Why not get him more damaging up the field? That'll help him so much. And then I'm looking here, and the one takeaway I took, they brought Lake Alir in for the first time this year. And he's been healthy all year. So I don't know. And they signed Laverde to be the replacement for Lake Alir, and you thought, oh, Laverde is in trouble now because now the Leak's there, like he's not going to get a game. Laverde hasn't missed a match, and Leak has come back in. You thought he played key defence. He was playing as a second ruck, which was bizarre to say the least. I know he has a great vertical leap, but it's thinking, did they just take him back with no real plan? And maybe this is his last ditch effort, because if this doesn't work out, then Leak's in big trouble. And I know, all that Saints controversy, but I was just bewildered that he can't play over Laverde, and then they brought him in as second ruck. So I don't know what's going on with Lake Alir. Then we got Hawks versus Port. I actually attended this game. It was a really great game to watch as a neutral. I'm not a Hawks or a Port fan. And Porters never gave up. I remember I was sitting there, I was with a Hawks mate. And I was thinking, in the first quarter, they're up by like 20 something points. And I was thinking, this game's over. Had a multi on in this game, and I was thinking, I had George Yars for 2 goals, and I was like, hopefully he gets some junk time goals, because they don't look like they're going to get anything going forward. Then all of a sudden, that second quarter, they kicked, I think it was 8 unanswered goals or something. And I was like, what is going on? And then it was just after half time, it was one of the best games I've been to all year. It was back and forth, there was high intensity, it was great foot skills, it was everything that you would definitely want, but it still comes back down to when the going got tough, it's either Horne-Francis or Butters or bust. Horne-Francis went to another level again. It was back-to-back weeks he's done this, so he's actually really starting to put together a really good season. Francis did it against St Kilda, brought Port back in the game against St Kilda, and then played so good. I think he kicked 2 goals, 2 in this one again. He kicked 2 goals, 2 last week. And yeah, it was just really, really good to see how good France has been going. Cal Shadir is one of the weirdest players in the AFL. Have you been watching his VFL stats? He's been pretty average. You'd hope as a guy talented as him that was doing what he was doing at AFL level like 18 months ago, 12 months ago, before he got that injury mid-year last year. You were hoping that he was dominating the VFL like most great AFL footballers would do. But he was, Schubert's been their best forward this year in the VFL. But then he came in and he looked genuinely like should have been playing AFL a year, which is just such a strange. I guess it's all about ball use and how good, the Hawks players are getting the ball to him compared to the VFL probably midfielders. And then Lewis has been so dangerous this year. I think he played the same amount of games, but being in the system longer than Max King. So seeing him finally get going, only played 80 odd games, which is crazy considering he's been in the league since like 2016, 10 years in the league. That's crazy. And Hawks got the job done. The Wizard, the matchup, the decision to put, the third gamer on the Wizard was bizarre. Gave up 5 goals. They could have been prevented if they had put someone like Lockie Jones or even the $1 million man, Miles Bergman. I don't know why. He's gone so backwards this year, but give him some confidence, give him a role. It's time to go lock down on Wizard, and he wouldn't have done a better job than the 3-gamer or whatever it was. Then we move on to Crows versus the Saints. And I wrote down here is Cal Wilkie the best defender in the comp. It's hard not to say he is, just about how he's going. It was one of the most intriguing matchups I've seen recently, because his man in Tex Walker kicked 5 goals and arguably won the Crows the game. But Cal Wilkie was arguably the best player on the ground also. So it was one of the most intriguing matchups. Hard to say who got the chocolates. You'd probably give it to Tex because they won the game. But, at the point when the other way, you never know. Cal Wilkie has been fantastic. If he's not the All-Australian, in the All-Australian team, I don't know where he finds himself, but he should be in the back six somewhere. Sam Flinders finally played a good game. He played more. He was actually really struggling. After the first quarter, he played all right in the midfield, but he was really struggling in the guts in the second and third quarter. So Ross, as good coaches do, moved him around and chucked him at half back, and then he finally looked like, was finding his footy. I know his foot skills get banged on about heaps, but I feel like he's not a bad kick. I feel like he's way too far hated on as a kick of the football. If Dan Houston gets praised for his foot skills, I know Kane Corns loves Dan Houston's foot skills, then I don't think that him and Sam Flanders, hot take, are that crazy different in foot skills. Maybe Sam Flanders just looks better because he goes for the easier kicks, but still, on current form, I wouldn't say Dan Houston's so much better of a kick than Sam Flanders. And then I wrote here the worst on the ball decision against Flanders. That was so stiff. Flanders will sweep it in back there in the stoppage, spins out of a tackle, gets a fist too, but since he did the full 360, they couldn't hold the ball, which was so stiff, because if you're watching the game, they barely played that. I think, I remember it was either late in the third quarter or late in the fourth quarter. Luke Nankervis tries to spin the tackle, gets caught, and even doesn't even dispose of it quickly, throws it, and they called it play on. So that was crazy. It was just either play one or don't. And then I wrote here that Saints really lost the game themselves, not picking a third tall defender. Jack Silvani played his best game as a Saint the week before against Port Adelaide, playing as an intercept defender. It was fantastic. And that was because True was in the game, which helped him, so that, having an extra big fella down there means that they could, chip and change one, and there was always a loose tall deck there. But Jack Silvani was playing on Thilthorpe, who gave away 10 centimetres, and it really hurt big time, which was disappointing. But you live and you learn. I guess they only lost by a point, so it's hard to say if they should have played a third defender. I would have personally played Dougal Howard, even if it was only his last game he plays for the year. I would have played him just so then there was always, they could intercept with a Jack Silvani or a Callum Wilkie. And then the Roos versus the Tigers. I just said the Tigers don't look like they're likely to win a game. It's just, I know they will, because they almost won a game earlier in the year. But I feel like until they get their senior players back, like the Tom Lynches, and then Taranto got injured in this game, which sucks. And then Nankervis, they're getting flogged in the. They're vesting Coleman Jones. They kind of got out in this one. And they're vesting Coleman Jones, and they still got beaten in the middle because they don't really have a second ruckman. I reckon that Hayes Brown was really stiff because Samson Ryan sucks. I reckon he's no good at footy. He's been an assistant for ages and still doesn't look like he's put together. What is he? He looks no good as a ruckman. What, are they going to try him as a key forward? I'm not sure. I don't keep up with the VFL for the Tigers, but yeah. And then they put the Zerha went behind the footy in this one, which was intriguing. I never really rate him as a kick, and you usually want a centre play to half back. You usually want their ball use to be really good. But yeah, he was pretty good in this one. His ball use was actually pretty good off half back. If he's playing behind the ball, I'm thinking he's going to become more of a intercept defender. Because I actually do rate his hands, so I don't know how many intercept marks he took in this one. But if I would ever see him behind the ball, that's how I think. There's almost like a third tall or a intercept defender. So yeah, I guess we'll see if that was only a 1 week thing or he does it next week. Only time will tell. And then I wrote my last note. I wrote Zane Dersma. Proving that is wrong. I thought Zane Dersma was done at the end of last year. There was rumours he was going to go to Essendon to pair up because they were trying to pair up the Dersma boys. Because they were going to try to trade for pick one and then trade for Zane Dersma to pair the Dersmas together. And I was thinking Zane Dersma is just no good, but he's shown it. His athleticism, he's always had it, but he finally seems like he's clanking the marks. There seems to get some more possessions. Versus Lions. I was right, the D's are so good at 3:15. Seems like every time they play at 3:15, I think they're undefeated this year. They've beat the Saints, they beat Gold Coast, and now they've knocked off the Lions. So they've been so good at 3:15. They definitely need to sell those D's 3:15 shirts. So they start selling them, I might have to buy one. Stone cold season. I love the D's game style. Stephen King is awesome. And the main takeaway I took out of this game was watching and thinking, what would have happened with all the rumours that they were originally going to get Nathan Buckley? Thank God if you're a D's fan, you're thinking, like, we dodged a bullet there. Because I don't really rate Nathan Buckley as a coach. And Stephen King seems like he fully knows modern football, where the game is heading. Because his game style is exciting. He's playing with Dare. He's probably the most watchable team in the comp. They got Cozzy, they got all these young guys. Where can they go to the next level? I know they're probably a draft away, because I think they still need to hit the draft again, because when Max Gorn's gone, they might really struggle, even though the moves looked fantastic in this one. But still, how exciting for the D's. And where can the D's go? I actually reckon they've got a wild card spot almost I'm not going to say sewn up, but that's what they should be aiming this year, 100%. That 10 spot's definitely there for them. And then I've gone Eagles versus Freo. The first note I write here is Murphy Reed is so silky. Definitely gives Scott Prenderby vibes massively. And I'm not saying they're going to be similar players. I'm just thinking, like, almost like when he gets the ball, the space that he finds. It was what I thought Hunter Clark was going to turn into. Shout out to Hunter Clark, believers. With how silky he is, his ball use is really good. And I'm glad they're finally giving some centre bounce time. It's only year 2 for Murphy Reed. And the fact he's getting midfield time in a midfield with Sarong, Young, Brayshaw, Luke Jackson gets midfield minutes. Like, that's such a strong midfield. And then Murphy Reed just icing on the cake. And I wrote Sean Darcy should never play again. That's probably a bit of an overstatement. But, like, I just don't understand why they're so persistent. I know playing 2 rucks, but I don't know. I just don't reckon it's worth playing the 2 rucks. Mason Cox looked a lot better backing up Luke Jackson, because usually whenever Sean Darcy plays, since Sean Darcy can only play ruck, then Luke Jackson has to back up his ruck, and then he has to play forward, he has to play midfield as a centre-bounce midfielder. So just, let's just not do that. And I love that they put Durs in the midfield, West Coast here. Like, finally giving some midfield minutes. He's an 18-year-old, and yeah, he's a big fan of AFL 26 too, so shout out to Willem Dersma. And yeah, he looked fantastic in midfield minutes, and actually shows the future. When Harley Reid was in there, when Willem Dersma was in there, I really missed Devin Robinson. I actually rate Devin Robinson so highly as that defensive mid. Thankfully, Ali Yo was back now, so they've got another defensive mid in there. But Dev Robinson finally got the opportunity to be an AFL footballer, apart from going viral, taking his shirt off once. And then he does his ACL last week, which is so sad. So yeah, prayers up for Dev Robinson. I hope he's going well. And we're on the mental health topic, because that'll be so heart-wrenching for Devin Robinson. So we're going to the second part of the podcast. There will be more segments coming. As I said, this is the opening round of the podcast. So there's a few things missing. We're going to have a co-host next week, hopefully, and hopefully more segments that we're going to add in, because doing a solo segment doesn't really feel great. It's almost like a preview and a review show almost right now. So first up, we got the Western Bulldogs versus Sydney Swans. 7th versus 1st. The Doggies are on an absolute downward spiral right now. Losing Sam Darcy, I think they've Lob's 50-50. O'Donnell, I think, is missing. Libber's not playing. The Bont's under an injury cloud. It's not looking good. Sydney Swans on a clean marble deck, perfect conditions. Sydney should just get the job done here, you would think. It's hard to see Sydney not when you laid out like that. McInerney's been playing elite. Chad Warner's been playing elite. Let's hope. Doggies put up a fight in this one. If you look at the odds, $1.24 to $4.10, which is crazy. If you showed that 2 weeks ago when the Doggies were undefeated, you wouldn't believe it. But I reckon the Swans get the job done here. And I reckon they get a job done comfortably by 30 points. I think I tipped on the tipping app. And then we move on to Friday night. Richmond got a Friday night game. This is going to be interesting. And it's against the red hot Melbourne Demons. And this is going to be a show at the MCG. Sadly, it's on a 3:15, because you would have almost sewn up the 4 points if that was the case. But I think these get the job done here comfortably. I just hope that the Tigers put up a fight. I would love it to be If this game's single digits deep into the fourth quarter, that'd be so exciting. Just to see the Tigers actually put up a fight. Hope Lawler has a good game. I know they're missing Taranto, so they're going to try a different midfield mix in this one. And I hope Cozzy puts on a show, Gorney puts on a show, Steele puts on a show. It should be absolutely fantastic. Then we've on to Hawthorn versus Gold Coast, third versus fourth, a top four clash. But it's stuck at UTAS at 12:30. Can't wait to Hawthorn just throw away that UTAS stadium. Sorry to the Tasmanians down there, but you know, you guys have got to have your own team. So let's just not play any other team down there, apart from when they're, you know, visiting the Devils. So the Suns are another team, like the Dogs, that have been on a downward spiral. They did win on the weekend, but just against Essendon, which they should, like, if they're a really serious, great team, you would think that at home they would smash Essendon. But Essendon put up a great fight. And yeah, the Suns are on forward watch right now early on. And I think the Hawks get the job done. They play so well down at Tassie. That's probably why they don't want to throw away the Tassie Stadium. So shout out to the Hawks, and I think they get the job done by 20 points in this one. I think that the poor performances continue on for the Suns. Now it's Anzac round, and which I didn't actually mention, that it's Essendon versus Collingwood, 3:20, the traditional time slot on a Saturday. So sadly we don't get a day off. I shouldn't have said that, but you know. and Essendon have actually been playing really good, so it's probably a great time to have it. And Essendon, I'm actually almost tempted to pick Essendon this one, which is, if I said that 2 weeks ago, you would call me crazy. But Collingwood haven't really been that great. They were down by 20 points in the third quarter against Carlton, who have been horrendous to start the year. But yeah, I reckon you could definitely give Essendon a chance. They've been playing some great footy, probably better footy than Collingwood over the last couple of weeks. But I am going to say Collingwood get the job done. Nick Dacos, who am I going to say wins the Anzac Day medal? We'll give the Anzac Day medal to the great man. Nick Dacos has to win it. He's the main guy you look at down there. And we move on to Port Adelaide versus Geelong at Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide have been such an iffy team. They looked horrendous early on in that Hawthorn game. Ended up making it really close, only going down by 3 points against the Red Hot Hawks. And then Geelong, you know, it's just the Cats. Like, what more do you have to say? It seems like when you can write them off, they end up just playing, continuing on their ways. So for this one, I'm going to say the Cats get the job done. Port lost the Saints at Adelaide Oval, so it's not really a fortress down there. And Geelong, they're just too much of a classy outfit. Get the job done. Now we move on to the Red Hot Dockers versus the Carlton Football Club at Optus Stadium. Interesting one for the Blues. I just don't really know what to think about the Blues right now. Hopefully they get all this media stuff out the way before this game so they can actually focus on the game because of all this Elijah Hollands situation. And Fremantle have been so good this year, you can't not tip them here. You know, maybe years past you'll pick them for losing the game like this where they should win it, but they just look so professional this year. Could almost lock them into that top four, so Fremantle got the job done. Now we move on to Sunday, St Kilda versus West Coast. I will be attending this game. And this could be Max King's first game. There's rumours as the recording of this video that Max King could be returning in this game. So fingers crossed he does, because I will be attending it a lot to see the return of the King. And I reckon St Kilda will get the job done here. I know West Coast have actually been playing some decent footy this year, but I just think that St Kilda need to start stockpiling these wins. They probably haven't played a bad game yet, St Kilda. I know that they're 2-4, but they've been in every contest and they could easily be 5-1. If a few, you know, things went their way. So St Kilda, I reckon they get the job done here, and hopefully King kicks a goal in return. That'll be fantastic to see. Now we move on to Brisbane versus Adelaide at the Gabba. The Adelaide, I'm not sure the status of Jordan Dawson, if he's meant to return this week. I know that's a hard situation going on there, so it's hard to know if they're prepping to have him there. But Brisbane, coming off the loss to the D's, I want to, you know, remonstrate and show that, you know, because I know they always start slow. They started slow last 2 seasons, but I think this is when they start to really, you know, start picking up, and probably this could be the start of their win streak. So I think Brisbane get the job done here. 3:15 at the Gabba, lock them in. And then GWS versus North end of the round. And GWS actually pretty heavy favourites in this one, when North are actually being really good. I know North haven't beaten too many top contenders yet, but I'm tempted to pick North in this one. But I'm going to give GWS just because it is in Canberra. I think that GWS just play that oval a little bit better. So I'm going to pick GWS here, who I think are way better than what it says at 14th here right now. So yeah, that's about the podcast, guys. Feel free to leave in the comments down below segments I should add to the podcast, and anything stuff like that of what you would like to see on the podcast, more visuals and stuff like that. And hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching.